The story is about a panda who goes through a lot of training to reach the level of becoming a dragon warrior. But, at first, the panda was a noodle seller that has dreams of learning Kung Fu, and suddenly fate changed him. How the story ends will have you amazed. The story begins by showing us a shadowy panda wearing a sedge hat and flowing cape strolling over the Chinese countryside. He enters a pub and, rumored to be a grand master of Kung Fu, is instantly assaulted by neighborhood roughnecks. They cannot compete with his skill, though, and even the famed Furious Five bow to the panda, asking to hang out with him and battle with him. Pooh, the huge panda, awakens in his bedroom from his dream. His goose father, Mr. Ping, calls to him from the noodle restaurant below to help serve tables. Before heading downstairs, Pooh admires his Furious Five action figurines. Pooh is an enthusiastic Kung Fu lover who aspires to become a master capable of fighting alongside the five. However, due to his size and clumsiness, this desire is merely a dream, and Pooh's actual Kung Fu skills are limited to his knowledge of movements and relics. His father is more concerned with operating their restaurant and promoting his renowned secret ingredient soup, therefore he is reluctant to convey his ambitions to him. Before being called to visit Tortoise Grandmaster Oogway, Master Shifu, a red panda who lives in the Jade Palace Temple, trains in Kung Fu in the courtyard with his Furious Five disciples, Tigress, Crane, Monkey, Viper, and Mantis. Shifu goes to see him meditating in the Great Hall because he thinks something is wrong. Oogway doesn't hide the terrible news, but he calmly informs Shifu that he has foreseen that the snow leopard warrior Tai Lung would get out of jail and return to the Valley of Peace to cause further chaos. Shifu sends his goose messenger, Sang, to fly to Chorgum prison to make sure that security is enhanced since he is determined to never allow this to happen. Then Oogway declares that it is time to select the Dragon Warrior, a great skillful master who will unlock the universe's mysteries by reading the Dragon Scroll, which is carefully hidden on the temple ceiling. Shifu sets up a contest to decide which of the Furious Five will advance, assuming that one of them will be picked. The town is plastered with competition flyers, and the residents gather at the temple. Pooh follows with his noodle cart in tow, hoping to have the chance to meet his idols in person, but he struggles up the steep stairway to the temple. He arrives at the gates last and discovers that they have blocked him. Pooh builds rockets for his cart and launches himself into the air to watch the competition before it ends, only to crash into the arena as Oogway is about to make his choice from the five. Pooh opens his eyes to see Oogway pointing directly at him, and he and everyone else are surprised to hear that he is the Dragon Warrior. Despite Shifu's objections, Oogway makes his choice, and Pooh is carried inside the temple, leaving Tigress quite upset because it seems Oogway would have picked her if Pooh hadn't shown there. Pooh surveys the numerous weapons and priceless treasures within the temple in admiration before Shifu confronts him and criticizes him for his evident lack of expertise. He diminishes Pooh's enthusiasm by snatching his finger in the reputedly incredibly effective Wuxi finger hold, which Pooh is familiar with. Before bringing Pooh to the Five's training room and putting him to the test there, Shifu pledges that Pooh will regret ever being picked. Pooh accepts the challenge, nervous yet eager to try out some Kung Fu skills, but is hurled, tossed, and battered down to a now existing level 0. Pooh hears the Five making fun of his incompetence on the walk to the dorms. He confesses to Crane his self-doubts about being the Dragon Warrior during their awkward chat. Insisting that he is a disgrace to Kung Fu and that if he is clever, he would depart before morning, Tigress clears up her fears. Pooh leaves for a desolate location after becoming discouraged. He is discovered by Oogway with peaches crammed in his mouth, sitting beneath the peach tree of heavenly wisdom. Pooh is advised by Oogway that he worries too much about what was or what may have been after sensing his pain and observing that he seeks solace in eating. Instead of questioning himself, he needs to concentrate on the now. Pooh gets up early the following morning, re-energized with purpose, and declares that he will stay to train. He spars with each of the Furious Five and, despite his unwavering enthusiasm, takes rapid beatings. Frustrated by Pooh's perseverance, Shifu is at a loss. However, the Five, except Tigress, are inspired by Pooh's tenacity and soon begin to warm up to him. Shifu was not always as strict as he is now, the Five disclosed during an acupuncture session with Mantis. Tigress reveals that Shifu's personality change was caused by Tai Lung himself. Shifu reared Tai Lung as his own after discovering him as an infant on the temple steps and started to believe that the cub may be the legendary dragon warrior when he showed a natural aptitude for Kungfu. When it was Tai Lung's time to appear before Oogway, the Great Master saw darkness in him and refused to grant him the privilege of acquiring the Dragon Scroll. Tai Lung was furious and tried to steal the scroll by force by rampaging through the community. Shifu was unable to combat Tai Lung because she cared for him too much, and Oogway was obliged to stop his chi to win. Shifu, according to Tigress, has not shown concern for anything or anybody since, not even his foster daughter. Meanwhile, Zhang arrives at Chorgom prison and is escorted to Tai Lung's hold by the overconfident Commander Vacher, a rhinoceros. As one of Zhang's feathers lands in Tai Lung's hands, Vacher reassures Zhang that there is no way out of the cage. He removes the chi blockers and the turtle shell device on his back with his tail and a feather. Tai Lung grabs Zhang after his epic jailbreak, and he gives him the order to fly back to Shifu and let everyone know that the true dragon warrior is returning. Pooh entertains the five back at the temple by serving them some homemade noodle soup while copying Shifu's use of a noodle as a mustache. A ragged Zhang greets Shifu outside and tells him the news. Shifu discovers Oogway beside the sacred peach tree in a panic and informs him that Tai Lung is on his way. Oogway is surprised but reassures Shifu that if he develops trust in the panda and trains him, Tai Lung will be vanquished and Shifu will at last experience inner peace. After saying that his time has come, he hands Shifu his wooden stick. He strolls up to the cliff's edge before disappearing into a cloud of peach flowers. Shifu, sad upon his return to the temple, tells the five of Oogway's passing and how Pooh is their final opportunity to destroy Tai Lung. Pooh departs the temple in fear, but Shifu quickly stops him. Pooh approaches Shifu, accusing him of attempting to expel him from the temple. Pooh confesses a deep self-loathing as a fat failure and how he held up a thin hope that Shifu might transform him when Shifu questions him about why he continued to practice when he knew his teacher wanted him to resign. Pooh asks Shifu how he would prepare the big panda to become a dragon warrior after realizing how spiritually burdened the animal is. Shifu acknowledges his ignorance when faced with a pupil who was so burdened in several ways. After hearing this from the temple roof, Tigress left the Jade Palace and runs into the countryside, where she meets Tai Lung head-on. The other members of the five soon follow. They discover him traversing the Thread of Hope, a network of mountaintop bridges. On the last bridge, they make an effort to halt him. The five take the upper hand and seem to have defeated Tai Lung after a great battle, tying him to the broken bridge's remnants and launching him into the mist below. But Tai Lung's abilities outperform theirs, and he shocks them by leaping onto the cliff and overwhelming them with a chi block. Shifu awakens to find Pooh in the temple's kitchen, surrounded by cabinets with spotless door holes and planks that have been split in half. Before slipping behind the doorway, Shifu entertains an idea and informs Pooh where Monkey stores his cookies. He comes back in and finds Pooh eating the cookies while doing a flawless split towards the ceiling. Shifu sends Pooh deep into the Wudan Mountains to the Pool of Sacred Tears, where Oogway established the beginnings of Kungfu, after realizing Pooh's hidden aptitude. Shifu declares himself to be Pooh's teacher with a dramatic flourish, finally having complete trust in his pupil. Shifu starts his demanding training of Pooh with that psychological support and uses food as a reward. Pooh's unique method of training succeeds, as he becomes stronger and more coordinated while Shifu's spirits soar and progress in response to Pooh's fast improvement. In an increasingly intense battle over a dumpling that develops into a chaotic spar, in which the giant panda fights with strong and creative techniques to win, Shifu's trust in Pooh is confirmed. Shifu, however, has developed when Pooh returns the dumpling he earned, with newfound emotional strength and peace. They head back to the temple as Crane soars in with the remaining five, who is immobilized as a result of Tai Lung's strikes. Shifu restores them, but Pooh is disheartened by the knowledge that Tai Lung could not be defeated by the five masters. Shifu guarantees him that he will own the Dragon Scroll, which no one else possesses. Pooh is given the scroll by Shifu and told to read it. However, when Pooh opens the scroll to discover just a blank, reflected surface, he gasps in amazement. Shifu, who is extremely unhappy, eventually agrees to have the five leave the village while he stays at the temple to fight off Tai Lung. Pooh returns to his father, who is closing up the noodle store after the five unhappily agree. Pooh reveals he doesn't know who he is and finds it hard to believe he is Ping's kid, while Ping attempts to comfort him. Ping, surprised, whispers to Pooh what he ought to have told him a long time ago, the hidden component of his renowned secret ingredient soup. The trick is nothing. He clarifies that anything only acquires specialness if others genuinely believe it to be such. Pooh returns to the temple after realizing the secret when he opens the scroll and notices his reflection on its glazed surface. Shifu waits for Tai Lung at the top of the stairs. Shifu fights Tai Lung while refusing to give his former student the scroll. The scroll is Tai Lung's, and he claims it is his inheritance. He accuses Shifu of instilling dreams of his supposed destiny in his mind and for not standing up to Oogway when the turtle disagreed. Shifu defends himself against the assaults of his adopted sons by saying that he is following his master's orders and that Oogway should have made the choice alone. When Tai Lung notices Master Oogway's monument, the snow leopard sneeringly argues that Shifu has undoubtedly taken the position of the deceased master, and as a result, the red panda is now able to unilaterally overturn Oogway's choice. Shifu launches an assault out of rage at the notion of insulting his teacher's heritage in such a way. Shifu acknowledges that he was proud from the start, but that it was his pride that prevented him from witnessing what Tai Lung was developing into throughout the battle as Tai Lung cries for him to express his pride with a subtly sad and abandoned tone. This confession temporarily moves Tai Lung, but his cruel ambition quickly returns. Tai Lung simply wants the scroll, denying any desire for an apology or a chance for forgiveness from his foster father. He is prevented from striking Shifu to death by Pooh, who shows up at the temple's entrance, tired out. Tai Lung assaults Pooh despite being surprised by the dragon warrior's chubby appearance when he exposes the dragon scroll in his possession. Each of them is fighting for control of the scroll as their conflict spills into the village. Tai Lung is persuaded that the scroll is providing him power, but at one point Pooh imagines the scroll as a dish of dumplings to tempt him to climb a high cliff to acquire it. Tai Lung ultimately succeeds in obtaining the scroll after a lengthy battle, and he proudly opens it to reveal the supposed power within. However, when he notices the golden reflection inside, he is utterly unable to understand its symbolic meanings. Tai Lung rejects the panda's arguments and the notion that everything the snow leopard has betrayed and sacrificed in his sight appears to have been for naught as Pooh rises to explain. Tai Lung assaults Pooh once more, but this time without restraint or a solid reason for doing so. Pooh defeats Tai Lung by using cleverness and his recovering stomach. Before Pooh applies the wuxi finger hold on Tai Lung's finger, the latter hurls a barrage of obscenities. Pooh confesses that Shifu never taught him the move. Instead, he discovered it on his own when Tai Lung calls his bluff. Pooh flexes his pinky with a jubilant skadoosh and unleashes a spectacular wave of raw energy that resonates throughout the valley and is felt by the five as they are guiding the refugees up the hills. Having presumably killed Tai Lung, Pooh is cheered on by the returning villagers. Before Pooh returns to the temple to check on Shifu, Tigress, and the other members of the five bow before him and acknowledge him as master. He informs Shifu that he defeated Tai Lung after finding him laying still but still alive on the temple floor. Before shutting his eyes, Shifu praises him and tells Pooh that he has brought him peace. Shifu reprimands him, claiming that he is only sleeping until Pooh calls out to him. After spending some peaceful, contemplative time next to him, Pooh asks if he wants to grab something to eat. Okay, says Shifu. The story ends at the peach tree of heavenly wisdom. They share a dumpling supper while watching the dawn break over a seed Shifu had earlier planted. What a great meaning the story has brought, showing us to trust in ourselves. Comment down below about what you guys think about this movie. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Don't forget to visit our other video too.